Welcome to Bealtaine Cottage and what is now the dying days of winter here in the west of Ireland. I'll show you around the cottage garden and you'll be able to understand why these are the dying days of winter, because already the signs of spring are pushing through and the sun is rising a little bit higher in the sky each day. So you can almost record the end of winter with the shadows that are being cast. The shadows, instead of being longer, are now shorter. The sun is reaching into those little places where life begins to spring. We've had some very cold weather over the past couple of weeks, and there's been a hard frost. And suddenly, over the past 24 hours, the temperatures have risen. There's a storm on the way, but there's that beautiful air of earthy life. That's the only way I can describe it, where you can actually smell the earth beginning to come to life. So enjoy these little images of the frost on the ground, because as of today, Sunday, the frost has disappeared, and I want to show you what's happening here in the gardens of Bealtaine Cottage. These are sacred places, because even in the coldest winter, they stay evergreen. This is habitat, not just for foxes and badgers and all mammals and birds, but this is the fairy wood. As you know, much of the land around Bealtaine Cottage, which is approximately 3 acres, I have created a woodland in, and this is the fairy wood, which has got the most extraordinary, unique climate and environment. It's in a dell. Although it faces north, it stays green for most of the year. There is a spring well here, and of course that also adds to the microclimate. But there is the most astounding sort of beauty, a sacredness in this part of the land. These are the huge moss-covered boulders that are at the top of the fairy wood. And on the edge, just looking out across the field, which doesn't belong to me, this is just all the woodland. But coming up around the cottage, there is a garden with many different plants. And I try to plant for the seasons, so there is a variety of flowers all the year round. You don't even need to have a microclimate to do this, because there are so many garden plants which will give you those beautiful images, flowers, even scents during the deepest midwinter. Ivy, of course, is evergreen and grows abundantly here in the west of Ireland. But also during the winter, you get the beautiful colours of the stems of trees, like this rowan or mountain ash, which is multi-stemmed. And when you contrast it with the ivies, it's quite magical. The air during the winter is so clear. There's a vibrancy. You get to see more life. You get to see quite beautiful moons. And where you have evergreen twinned with trees and shrubs which are deciduous, you get these beautiful skeletal shapes rising up above the evergreen land. And just looking out across the back of the cottage, I keep a variety of plants which keep me assured that the seasons are in full flow. Like this mahonia here on the left, just up against the lodge, the studio, is the witch hazel. Beautiful flowers at this time of year and heavily scented. And the dogwoods. And inside the pergola, just looking out, and again surrounded by green. And of course, plants in pots, which could be moved around. And here on the left is some honeysuckle and pyracantha. Looking up this way, myself and my son were cutting part of a cherry tree yesterday. It had one limb coming out at a very sort of uncertain angle, which we took off. But the tree, of course, remains intact. And look at these rhododendron flowers. There are so many varieties of rhododendron. I have 5 in the garden, which flower at different times. And quite near the back door, of course, I have these beautiful narcissi in a pot again, a little bit sheltered, so we'll get some early blooms on those. And there's Mr. Pheasant. You get to see the pheasant more at this time of year again because there's a sort of a bareness across the land which allows you a deeper view into nature. This is filmed from my kitchen window. And again, back to the beautiful witch hazel. It's so enchanting, it's just lovely to be around it. And it's just opposite this very old statue of the goddess, which I have leaning up against a tree. This, of course, is perhaps the first calendar ever devised. This is the Caligny calendar, which is an old Celtic calendar on bronze. This is a beautiful hellebore. And, of course, the New Zealand flax, which is an evergreen. This is part of the cherry wood, which I took down yesterday. It's a very important task during the winter months as well to have a look at trees and make sure that whatever is detrimental to the continuing success of that tree is taken off. And it's called pollarding. And the beautiful, vibrant, yellowy green stems of the Flavirumera dogwoods. Just stunning at this time of year. So here we are approaching the magical Celtic festival of Imbolc, and I have just released details of my book about Imbolc, and I'm going to read a little bit now from the book. The dusk is stretched out in lengthening days. Birds call to one another as the mornings lighten. The great birthing is underway as we wait in eager anticipation of all that is promised. New life awaits planting, for Mother Earth loathes scarcity, a human imposition. The light grows. Imbolc is the promise of rebirth, life, and light. In times of trouble, and we all know that the earth is being bombarded with much darkness from the world of man. So during these times, it is almost essential not just to hunker down on Mother Earth, but to be reassured by her that nature and the earth continues, and no better place to find repose than in a garden. and watch the return of the light.